The NBA draft is fast approaching us, and recently one of the top prospects, most thought the top prospect in the draft heading into it, has now been slipping in the rankings, and reportedly it's Lamelo Ball who's been slipping. There's been question marks over his work ethic, his attitude, and then you have to question whether he even fits with the first three teams. The Timberwolves have D'Angelo Russell. The Golden State Warriors would prefer a wing or a big, or they'd be looking to trade the pick ideally for them. And then at 3, the Charlotte Hornets seem to have their eyes set on a big as well, a James Wiseman or a Onyeka Okongwu. So with those 3 teams occupying the top 3 picks at the moment, it seems unlikely that Lamelo would be selected within the first 3 with how the order is currently shaped out. Now, quickly before I go any further, if you could drop a like on the video right now, that would be much appreciated. Also, subbing to the channel helps out a lot. I'm trying to hit 10k pretty soon, and I make content like this very regularly, so if you enjoy that type of stuff, hitting the sub button just helps out a lot, so it'd be much appreciated. Also, liking the video does as well, so thanks. Anyways, let's get back into it. Now, we have to talk about the reason Lamelo might be falling, because obviously there's rumors that it's been about his attitude, it's been about his work ethic. It's not all just about the other teams not being the best fit, because if he was seen as the best prospect, like he was before, if he was seen as a great prospect, then I'm sure one of the teams in the top 3 would take a chance on him. I'm sure there'd be a number of teams like the Pistons and the Knicks lining up to take the Warriors, or even the Timberwolves' second and first pick to take him in the draft. That's the kind of prospect he was seen as just a few months ago, but now there's been questions over his work ethic, over his attitude, and these last few months have allowed scouts and general managers to pretty much nitpick every single thing, and every single thing they don't like about someone they've been able to amplify because there's really been nothing going on. He hasn't played basketball in like over a year, so while some players have been able to show their work ethic and their ability to gain weight, their ability to improve a certain skill, Tyrell Terry has put on muscle and he's shot up the draft boards. Patrick Williams impressed scouts with some of his answers about how he's ready to fit into an NBA role and take a role as a defender first before he tries to learn more of a bigger role and take on that role first, and that's really impressed scouts, and that's seen him shoot up the draft boards. Things like that have seen players go up the draft boards, but equally, Lamelo Ball has clearly not had the right answers or given the right answers. Maybe deliberately that's happened. There's been rumors over he wants to drop in the draft, so he goes to a more ideal situation. When you look at it, that's not far-fetched. He already does have the money. A lot of these prospects would like to go top 1, top 2 because of the money that you can get. He's already got a huge deal with Puma. He's already earned money since he was like 15. So the money aspect isn't as big of a deal as it would be for other prospects. And maybe he's more worried about the longevity of his career, going to the right market, getting the numbers up, and then the Rookie of the Year incentives, all of that kind of things will also lead to more money. So if he goes to the right situation, maybe that's something they're more keen on doing than just going top 1, top 2. But these are just theories. You have to take into account there have been question marks over his work ethic and attitude for a long time. It's no coincidence that now the scouts have had longer to talk to him, longer to see him work out, longer to see him progress, and then they're becoming less inclined to pick him. That is a bit worrying. Obviously, from the Bulls' perspective, I think he's still a perfect fit, because at the number 4 spot, if you had been able to tell the Chicago Bulls, they would have been able to get arguably the best talented player in the draft. Someone that's not just the most talented player, but also someone that fits their roster as well. They would have snapped at the opportunity to do so, and I think they still should, regardless if there's a few question marks around him. But enough about all the negatives, because we're not here to talk about all the negatives. Obviously, we're here to talk about why I think Lamelo would be a perfect fit for Chicago. And you just have to start by looking at, they don't really have a point guard. Thomas Satoransky, he's very expendable. You can get rid of him. You can just bench him. I know it'd be a wasted contract, but you're not going to let him halt your future. Obviously, he's just a role player. He's a veteran role player that they brought in for a veteran presence. And then you have Kobe White, who really progressed well, but there's still question marks over his playmaking, whether he's actually a point guard or a shooting guard. And when you have Zach LaVine next to him, neither of them are great playmakers. They're both score-first guards, and that definitely leaves questions over whether they can coexist going forward as two players that aren't very good defensively at all, aren't very good playmakers, and are score-first guards. It definitely leaves questions over whether those two players are the kind of guys you would want next to each other going forward. On the other hand, to these guys, Lamelo has shown the tools that he can be a good defender. He does have lapses in concentration. He does look disinterested sometimes. We have seen it quite often with guards that have the ball in their hands all the time, and then they go to the next level and they don't have the ball in their hands as much. Lonzo Ball, his brother's a great example. Someone who had all the tools to be a great defender. He didn't have the ball in his hands as much, and he needed to stay on the floor because he wasn't doing as well as people would have anticipated. So what he did was he locked up on defense, and that was an avenue for him to stay on the floor. And if Lamelo Ball doesn't have the ball in his hands as much, then that's another avenue for him to stay on the floor, because at the moment, the Chicago Bulls have two guards that aren't very good defenders, and Lamelo already has the tools to be a better defender than either of them. So if he wants to stay on the floor, if he wants to start, if he just wants to get significant minutes, that's a thing that he needs to do, and it's a thing he's capable of doing. And then the obvious reason you're drafting him is the playmaking that he brings. Definitely the most talented passer in the draft. Still tries to make some very tough passes that don't always pan out, but it's part and parcel of how he plays, and he's someone that at the very least you could see coming in and making an immediate impact as a playmaker. And it draws parallels to his brother again. Whatever you think of Lonzo, he's already one of the top 10, even top 5 passers in the league. He's a great playmaker, and he's been a great playmaker since he came in, and he's helped every team he's been on in that aspect of the game. And I could see a similar path for Lamelo, and this similar path would make the Chicago Bulls significantly better for it. Not to mention he even has more potential scoring in traffic, getting to the rim, as someone who actually likes to get to the rim, or at least more than Lonzo. He's someone that can score. Sure, his efficiency isn't ideal, but he's shown things that he can get to the rim. He can have 30-point games, and those are things that might hold up at the next level. I think people believe if the Bulls were to go for Lamelo, that would mean they are moving on from Zach LaVine or even Kobe White, given they already have those two guys likely to occupy the guard spots. But I don't think that necessarily has to be the case. For starters, Lamelo has the size of a wing, which adds some versatility to the team if he were to be a starter, but I don't think he needs to start from the get-go. He's got all the tools. He's a very high usage rate guard. He's someone that likes the ball in his hands, and he's got all the tools to be a great backup point guard for the first year of his career. If he's great, if he's amazing, and you're sold on him being the future of your franchise, you can easily ship off one of Kobe White or Zach LaVine the next year. There's probably no harm done in doing that. And then you bring in Lamelo, and then you can make a better fit with who you have. Or you move Kobe White to the bench. He's someone that's a score-first guard. He did well coming off the bench at times during the year, and he's someone that might just be a better sixth man than he is as a starter, which is quite disappointing for the Bulls. But sixth men are very important in the game, so maybe that just means you found your 3-guard rotation, and then you have a Lamelo, Zach, and Kobe pairing, with at times having a 3-guard combo like the Thunder had in OKC, and it really worked out for them. So we don't just have to jump to conclusions and say, well, if they're drafting another guard and they already have 2 guards, it means they're going to trade one of them. No, not necessarily. They're completely different types of players. Kobe and Zach are score-first guards that lack in the playmaking department, and Lamelo's a pass-first guard with higher upside on defense, which is something the Bulls need. They need another defender, and if he could turn into the kind of defender Lonzo is, it would really help them out significantly. So that's another big aspect of why they should draft him. And then, like I said, you can always trade one of them. You're not tied down to any of these guys. I don't see any of them completely losing their trade value going into next year, and it means you get a chance to experiment with different lineups in a year where you're probably not going to make the playoffs, in a year where you're going to have a new coach, where you're going to feel out different lineups. You're going to look at this as a development year, as a building block for probably next year, and then looking to make the playoffs. So you get a chance to do exactly that and see who should be the future of the franchise. I think you take the most talented player at 4 available, and Lamelo is that in my opinion, and also I think he's a good fit as well. And with that in mind about the building block, it's genuinely ridiculous how many teams have a very talented young core and how many teams look like they're going to be competitive for at least this year and beyond. And I think the Bulls are one of those teams with a very talented young core, but I don't think it's significantly above a number of teams that all have very talented cores. So why not take a chance on someone who has very high upside and could be the potential difference between you guys being a solid 7th to 6th seed in the East, or being a top 3 seed in the East if he pans out like some people think he could. Those are the kind of things you have to take a chance on. It's better than just being good. You got a chance to be great, and I think taking LaMelo Ball increases your chances of being great. So that's why I do it if I'm a Chicago fan, if I'm a Chicago general manager. That's why I think LaMelo is the perfect fit, and that's why I think if he slips to 4, you just take him. You don't question it. You don't take someone like Denny, who I think is a good prospect, but I don't think has the same upside. I don't think he has the same potential as a superstar level player as LaMelo. I'm just taking LaMelo if he fits at 4, and I'm backing myself to get the best out of him. Now let me know what you think about if the Bulls should take LaMelo, if they should take someone like Denny. Does he fit in the system? I still think they should make it work, and then they can always trade the next year. It's not a huge deal. This isn't a year where I expect them to be a top 5 seed in the East. It's a year where I expect them to be around the middle of the Eastern Conference and still feeling out a different coach, a different system, a different playing group, and all these kind of things that lead to me thinking this can be an experimental year where they take the most talented prospect in the draft, and hopefully it pans out for them. Let me know what you thought of the video. Other than that, I'll catch you next time. Bye.